Have you ever fallen in love after turning 50? If the answer is yes, then maybe you've felt something different from those younger years. Maybe it's a quiet hesitation with no name. Maybe it's a stillness between heartbeats that once raced. But maybe it's a price not always measured in money. Love at this age is no longer about impulsive dates, late-night messages that never stop, or getting upset over nothing just to feel cared for. It's different, very different. Because now, every decision comes at the cost of a peace that took a lifetime to build. Some have stepped out of long marriages, thinking they were free, only to feel so lonely that they settle for a half-hearted relationship just to have someone to eat dinner with. Some believe a second love will heal old wounds, only to find out they're just part of someone else's plan. And some, even with all their caution, still fall into the spiral of loss, not just of possessions, but of trust and dignity. Loving after 50 isn't easy, not because there's a lack of chances, but because too many experiences have made trust harder to give. But why is love after 50 so risky? Why are those who've been through so much still so easily hurt? To answer that, first we must face a truth. Love at this age is no longer a young person's game. When we're young, love often feels dreamy. We love with all our excitement, love without reason, and we're ready to believe every promise that hasn't been proven yet. Love back then felt like a journey without a map, where emotions led the way and logic was often left behind. An awkward handhold could make the heart flutter, a passing glance could carry lasting hope. But after turning 50, everything changes. Love no longer lives in long nights filled with non-stop messages or sweet words that make the heart skip a beat. It becomes something deeper, something that requires more thought and carries the caution of someone who's been through pain. At this age, men are no longer looking for short-term excitement. What they need is long-lasting peace. They've had enough bumps to know that not everyone who comes along is worth keeping. They've trusted too many times and ended up cleaning up the mess on their own. They no longer dream of love as an escape, but as a reward if it comes for the kindness and sincerity they've held on to through it all. Many of them have been married, had families, shared years, then parted ways. Some have been through hurt they no longer speak of. Some just want a meal with someone else's voice in the room, but won't say it out loud because they're afraid to start something uncertain again. The hardest part isn't finding someone to love, it's starting over. According to a survey by AARP, nearly half of men over 50 looking for a new relationship say they don't know where to begin. The world has changed. The way people connect is different now. And the unspoken rules of modern love make them feel lost in the very journey to find companionship. For men at this age, opening up is no longer easy. Their hearts aren't fragile anymore, but they aren't in a rush either. They may be ready for something new, but fear it might turn out like the last time. And that fear, that's what holds them back, even when they need someone to walk with through the years ahead. And because love is no longer what it used to be, the risks men face have become more dangerous and more silent than ever before. Love after 50, though filled with the desire for companionship and connection, also carries risks that not everyone can see from the beginning. Men at this age often have a stable financial foundation, assets built over many years of work, homes, investments, and responsibilities tied to children or family. That's why every decision to enter a new relationship also means putting their security to the test. One of the most visible risks is financial risk. Many have gone through divorce and had to split everything they worked hard to build. The numbers in a divorce ruling don't just divide assets by percentage, they divide the years, the effort, and the expectations once poured in. Some men were the main financial providers and, after divorce, had to start over with only half of what they had, or less. There are many cases where they remarried without signing any financial agreement. When the new relationship falls apart, they don't just lose money, they lose the ability to recover financially at an age where youth is no longer on their side. But the loss isn't just material. Emotional risk is much harder to measure. Experienced men don't open up easily, but when they do, they often place high expectations on sincerity. Because of that, when they realize they're loved for gain, for circumstances, or for unclear reasons, the pain runs deep. The hurt doesn't come from being left, it comes from the feeling of not being loved for who they truly are. Another fear, quieter but just as harsh, is the fear of being judged. Society still holds many biases. Older men who fall in love again are sometimes seen with suspicion, especially if their new partner is younger or from a very different background. A father starting a new relationship after divorce or the loss of a spouse may not receive support from his own children. They're misunderstood, labeled, seen as weak, rushed, or lacking judgment, and that makes them hesitate, even suppress the desire to find someone to share life with. Beyond internal barriers, men over 50 also face a modern-day risk, the risk that comes from the internet. Many turn to dating apps, forums, and social media to find connection. But with that comes the danger of being taken advantage of, especially by sophisticated romance scams. A beautiful woman, gentle in speech, skilled at stirring emotions, sending fake video calls, telling heartbreaking stories, all just to gain trust and then access to a bank account. According to a recent FBI report, thousands of older men fall victim to such scams every year. And what hurts them isn't just the money lost, it's the shame, the humiliation of being deceived in what they thought was love. All of this shows that love after 50 is a journey both beautiful and full of traps. It requires clarity, but also a lot of courage. Because not everyone is brave enough to open their heart again, and not everyone is lucky enough to meet someone genuine. But not everyone learns from the risks. Many only see the truth after paying a very high price. John, 58, living in the suburbs of Denver, had a marriage that lasted over 20 years before ending in divorce. After a long period of living alone, he decided to try finding love again through a dating app for older adults. There, he met a woman from the same city. She spoke gently, listened well, created a sense of closeness, and often showed what seemed to be genuine care. 6 months passed, and John believed he had found his new life partner. He brought her home, introduced her to friends, and even opened a joint account for convenience. Everything seemed fine until one morning, he woke up to find she had vanished along with nearly $80,000 of his savings. No goodbye, no trace left behind. Just some text messages, a few shared photos, and a lesson he would never forget. In another city, Paul, 64, had spent a long time alone after losing his wife to illness. He lived a disciplined life, took care of himself, and regularly attended community clubs for seniors. There, he met a woman nearly 20 years younger, from another state. They connected quickly. She was warm, attentive, and always made him feel needed. After a year of knowing each other, they had a simple wedding. Everything seemed fine, until Paul discovered she had been sending money regularly back home to a younger man who he later learned was actually her real boyfriend. The truth broke him. Not because of the money, but because he had been deceived in the very place he thought was safest, his feelings. Then there's Robert, 51, a completely different case. He wasn't scammed, didn't lose money, but lost years in a relationship without real love. After his divorce, Robert felt empty. He didn't want to be alone, so he quickly entered a new relationship with a woman he met through friends. They got along in terms of habits, were easy to live with, and because of that, he thought he could start over. But after 2 years, Robert realized what he was living wasn't love. It was an arrangement. There was no true sharing, no deep empathy. Each day felt like a temporary agreement to avoid eating dinner alone, to avoid sleeping in silence. In the end, he was the one who ended it and walked away feeling even more empty than during his single days. Stories like these are not rare. They differ in details, but share one truth. Men over 50 can still make mistakes in love. Not because they lack intelligence or awareness, but because they still believe that experience will protect them from getting hurt. They've overcome challenges at work, in family, in life, and so they believe their hearts are strong enough too. But the heart at any age is still vulnerable, still easily misled, especially when the longing for companionship grows too great. And that's what leads many to very costly lessons. They don't need someone who makes them feel young again, more excited, or refreshed. What they need is someone who understands their silence, empathizes with what they can't put into words, and is strong enough to walk with them through the years ahead without needing to say much. Love after 50 doesn't mean you have to be guarded, suspicious, or closed off. But clearly, to love without hurting yourself, a man needs more than sincerity. He needs preparation. He needs a gentle clarity enough to protect himself without losing warmth. So how can a man over 50 love without hurting himself? Is it possible? The answer is yes, but it takes preparation. Falling in love again after 50 is not just an emotional decision. It's a journey. And to make sure that journey doesn't become a new scar, the first thing you need is preparation, both inside and out. First, heal before starting over. Some wounds no longer bleed but have never truly healed. Some sadness no longer brings tears but still lingers quietly inside. Don't rush into a new relationship just to forget the old. Love is not a tool to fill a void, it's a place where two people build something new together. If you still feel insecure, anxious, or have lost trust, give yourself the chance to speak with a mental health professional. Therapy is not weakness. It's how a mature person learns to have a conversation with themselves. At the same time, don't isolate yourself. Meet with friends, join small community groups, stay present in the flow of life. When you remain connected, you see more clearly who's truly coming into your life and who's only passing through for convenience. Next, build clear boundaries. Loving sincerely doesn't mean losing yourself. One of the biggest mistakes people make is letting emotions take over too quickly, leading to long-term consequences, especially financially. If you've worked hard for what you have, don't place it all on the line because of a few sweet months in the beginning. Keep your finances independent. Don't transfer money. Don't share bank accounts. Don't co-own property unless you're absolutely sure and have legal safeguards in place. Clarity at the start is what protects you when love is no longer as beautiful as it was in the beginning. Just as important is the ability to observe and evaluate the other person with clarity. Not with suspicion, but without blind trust. If someone says they're facing financial hardship, or that their family doesn't accept them, or that they need help, but their social media, their story, or their behavior doesn't match up, take a step back and look closer. Don't get swept up in touching stories if they can't be verified with real facts. Watch their actual behavior, how they treat others, how they react when you say no, and even how they respond to your silence. Truth isn't in their words, it's in how they live. Dating through digital platforms is common today. But stay alert. Choose platforms with a strong reputation and clear account verification policies. Don't let online chatting go on for too long without meeting in person. And under no circumstances should you send money, invest, or share sensitive information with someone you only know through a screen. Beautiful stories never begin with a money transfer. And finally, when you're ready, look for someone who's right, not someone who's perfect. Don't dream of someone who makes you feel young again or makes your heart race every time you meet. Pay attention to those who make you feel at ease, who make you feel light, who let you be yourself. Observe how they handle problems, how they respond to disagreements, how they deal with reality. The right people don't always shine on the first meeting, but they last. They don't overwhelm you, but they make you want to stay. And most importantly, they share a similar outlook on life. Simple, kind, and slow-paced. Love after 50 isn't easy. But if you walk the path the right way, it can absolutely be the most beautiful reward of your life. Not every good relationship comes early. Some people spend half their lives chasing what they thought was right, only to meet the right person after everything has quieted down. And even if that moment comes late, it's still worth it, because true love isn't measured by age, but by the quality of companionship. After moving past the noisy years, people no longer look for fleeting excitement. What they seek is someone who understands them, even in the quiet moments. Someone who doesn't make them try to be someone else. Someone willing to walk slowly with them, even when the world outside is rushing by. And in love at this age, that's what truly matters. Companionship, respect, and sharing become the three core things. When we're young, we may focus on appearance, passion, or things that shine. But with maturity comes the understanding that being listened to, being understood, and being seen with kind eyes are what keep people together over time. Not attraction, but peace. Not fancy words, but small acts each day. Mr. Jack, 67, had lived alone for many years after his wife passed away. His friends encouraged him to try dating again, but he always declined, believing he could no longer love. That changed when he happened to meet Mrs. Helen, a widow living in the same neighborhood. They started with short conversations at the park, which gradually became a habit. She was no longer young, not beautiful by traditional standards, but she had calmness, just enough laughter, and a way of caring that needed no noise. They didn't rush, didn't make promises, they simply showed up in each other's lives every day. A year later, they got married, no grand celebration, no show, just two people choosing to keep going together, with respect and understanding like lifelong friends. Love at this age no longer lives in grand vows. It lives in small gestures, making a warm cup of tea when the other is tired, listening even if the story repeats, or simply sitting together in silence and still feeling complete. It's not surface attraction, but inner connection. It's two people who have been through enough, now choosing to stay because they know what truly matters. And if you're still searching, perhaps the most important thing is, don't rush but don't close your heart. Have you ever gone through a costly lesson in love after 50? If so, feel free to share your story in the comments below. Maybe your experience could help someone else avoid unnecessary pain. If you feel this content resonates with your life journey, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow more videos about psychology and relationships in adulthood. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next video.